So we are continuing our Python level 3 class. So today we are going to talk about a new concept. So let me share my screen. All right. So before we do that, I just wanted to do an review. So what is a recursive function? So what is a recursive function? Recursive function is just a function, right? But it has three features or three characteristics. So what are those three? Number one, this function has a base case. In the base case, it returns a value. Number two, in this function, it calls itself. Number three, when it calls itself, it uses a value for the parameter that will shrink. So it will reach the base case. So that's the three features of a recursive function. Of course, you can see it can expand when it calls itself. It expand until it reaches the best case. Then you need to set that best case so that the value is big. Okay. So what is the class construct and what is it used? With the class construct is a function in the class. It's called init. It's underscore underscore init underscore underscore, right? So what does it for? So what is the construct for? So the construct is for us to instantiate the properties, of the instance of that class. So you can set the values for that instance. So today let's continue. So we will have a nested class. So I can just go quickly. It's just a concept, okay? A nested or in the class is contained within another class. So in the class, you define another class. This is one example of encapsulation. So where the inner class is not useful by itself, it cannot be used outside the outer class. So this is an example. You have a class called an out. Within this class, you define another class called the inner. Okay. So this class is not available outside this class. Okay. It's not available. It is only used within this class. It is only used within this class. So an inner class in Python is a distinct entity in that it does not automatically get access to the outer class members in any special way. So what does it mean? If you have a variable here, okay, in the out class, the inner class cannot automatically use it. You have to create an instance of this outer class first. Then you can use the variable in the outer class, right? Let me give you more example. You say human, that's an outer class. Then you have an inner class called head, okay? You say here, I have two properties of the human, name, head, okay? You say when we do talk, we just returning talking. But this one, this head class here, does not have access to name itself. Does not have access to the name itself, okay? So that's what it meant. But when you look at this code here, you see this is the class human, and you create an instance called Guido. And then you can print out the name of Guido because that's an instance of human. You cannot directly using head, the head class, okay? You have to use this one because this is a variable in the human class, and it refer an instance of the head class here. So you are using it that way. Okay. Hopefully this makes sense to you. All right. So let me just skip those slides. Not necessary to talk about that. So this one is very important. It's an inheritance. So it's the relationship between classes, the parent class and the child class. So why do we use that? So instead of starting from scratch, you can create a class, okay? So you can create a class by deriving it from a pre-existing class by listing the parent class in parentheses after the new class name. I will give you an example. So what it looks like. Okay. So this pretty much tells us that you can have multiple parents, okay, for the child class. It can have multiple parents. So the child class inherits the attributes of its parent class, and you can use those attributes as if they were defined in the child class. So last week I showed you that. So a child class can also override data members and the methods from the parents. So I can also show you those examples. So that kind of feature is called inheritance because it inherits from the parent. Inheritance allows us to define a class that inherits all the methods and the properties from another class. So parent class is the class being inherited from, and is also called the base class or superclass. Child class is a class that inherits from another class, also called derived class or child or subclass. Okay. One is superclass, one is subclass, one is parent, one is child, one is base class, one is derived class. Okay. So that's all different names, exchangeable. I'll give you this example. Okay. So you see, let me give you this code if you wanted to try it. So let me just give you this code. All right. So you can have that code. You see here, I have a class called parent. Actually, it can be a different name, okay? Called parent. You see, parent has an attribute called parent attribute. Now in the init file, it just print out this line, calling parent construct. And then I have another method called parent method. What does this do? It just print out a calling parent method. And I have another method called set attribute. So I set a parent attribute to this value. And then I have a method called get attribute. So I just print out the attribute value. Okay. So then I have a child class. When I define the child class, you see, list the parent class name in the parentheses. You can have multiple. Okay, you can have multiple. So in the child class constructor, I just printed this line of code calling child constructor. And I have a child method and I print out the calling child method. Okay, so let me just run this code. Let me just run this code. All right, so let me save the code. So I have a parent class. I have a child class. Okay. So let me run this code later on. Okay, so now let's move on. So now let's please try creating the instance of the child and the parent. You will see that the child has methods defined in the parent. So let's do that. Okay, I want you guys to follow me. So let me just do a child. It equals to child. All right. So you say create an instance of the child class. So let me show you a child. Put a dot here. Oh, you see, I have so many things pop up. You see, I have the parent attribute here. Obviously, I did not define that in my child class, but it is defined in the parent class because the child class is a child of the parent. So whatever is in the parent is also in the child. You see, you have the parent method, you have the parent attribute, you have the get attribute, you have the child method, you have the set attribute, all those methods here. So the parent method, get attribute, set attribute are the methods in the parent. In the child, we only have one method, child method, right? So these are all inherited from the parents. So now you see the relationship. And then let me move on. And you see, I have this method called annotation. I have this method called class. I have this method called del h. What does it mean? I never defend it. You say I do not defend it in the child class. I do not defend it in my parent class. So where are they from? I told you, all classes in the Python, all the child of the class object. So what does it mean? Object. So let me just write down here. Object is a class. So object, let me show you, okay? Let me just show you in object. Let me create an instance as well. Okay. You see, this object is the class itself. So let's see what are in this object, this class. Let me put in a dot here. You see it has a init. It has if when, not, par, if. Then you see have annotations, classes, del attribute, DICT, the dictionary, DLR, DOC. You see it has defined all those. It has defined all those methods in the object method. And the object is the parent of all. So that's why if you put a dot here, you see all those methods there. Okay, hopefully this help you understand the relationship and what is inheritance. Fine. You can also override the method in parent by redefining it in the child, just like the behavior of the init, the constructor in the child, which now does things differently from its parent. And I do an example and see its effect. So let me just do that. Do an example. So let me come to my, remove this 2 lines of code. And then let me create a parent. All right. So I didn't do anything. I only created the instance of a child and of a parent. So let me save my code and then run it. You see the first one, it prints out calling child constructor. Why? Because you create an instance of a child class. So this init method is called, we call it the constructor, right, of the class. So it is called, so that's why this printed out. So when I create an instance of a parent, like this one, and you see that's the construct of the parent, so it prints out this. So calling parent construct. Okay. So you see, I have a method in the parent. I have the same method in child. Exactly the same name. This kind of behavior is called override. So you have a method in the parent, and now you rewrite that method in the child, and they behave differently. You see, in the child, it prints out this. In the parent, it prints out that. So that's why we see it's an override. Okay, it's an override. Right, so let me post here. Does this make sense? Can you guys type me some information, give me some feedback? Does this make sense to you guys? All right, how about you, Eddie? Does this make sense to you?
Yeah, makes sense.
All right, so Kate and Jerry, can you tell me? And Jerry. All right, good. So let's move on. So you can add a new properties and the methods to the child, just like what we do here. In the child, add another method. Of course, you can add another attribute to it, okay? So the parent class will have no visibility of the change in the child. No matter what the parent has, the child also has it. No matter what the change you does in the parent, the child will be able to inherit that. But it's not vice versa. It's not vice versa. That means whatever change in the child, the parent will not be able to see it. I think it's a good thing for us, right? The young generation. You really don't want your parents to know what you are doing, right? So you wanted to keep it private, but you really wanted to, get what your parents has. So all the good things your parents has, like the smartness and the advanced degrees, all those things you really want to inherit it because that's good things. So that's exactly what happens in the programming. The child inherits whatever the parents has, but the parents does not see any changes, any new things that the child has. All right, so the younger guys like this very much. Oh, good. So I can play games every day, and my parent does not know it. All right, so let's just learn this keyword, super. Super returns a proxy object. This temporary object of the superclass. It means the parent. When you use that, it will allow us to access methods of the base parent class. Okay. So what does it mean? Can I just do this? So this is an example class dog, and it is a child of a Canadian family. Okay. Canadian family. It's a child of that. You see, in the init method that's constructed, you print out a dog has 4 legs. And then you have a line say super init dog. Okay. So let me also do this in our code. So if I do this, okay, and then let me try something here. Super. Now let me do what? Let me do the parent method here. You see here, I print out a calling child constructor. In the same constructor, I use the super dot parent method. So I'm specifically calling this method now. I'm specifically calling this method. So let me save it. Okay. So now you see here. Calling parent method. Okay, that's because we use the super here. All right. So let me do one thing here to make it more clear. So let me also define, let me override this method, okay? Override this method here. So the name is called the parent method, but I will just change this called child method, okay? With parent's name. Okay, let me do it different. Let me try this different. Called a child method with override. Okay. So let me save my code now. So let me do it here. I will use a child dot parent method. You see the parent method in the child, it should print out calling child method with override. And here is the parent method. So you will see different result is printed out. So let me run it. So here, calling child constructor, calling parent method. That's all done here. And this parent method actually is the parent method here. Now I'm doing the child classes parent method. And that's what is printed out here. So it is called calling child method with override. Okay, so this gives you an idea if you wanted to call the specific method in the parent, if that method is overridden in the child, you use super. You use super to do it. Okay, super will give you access to the parent method in case the child already override it. Okay, so let me do a quick quiz here. Can you guys give me the answer to this quiz? What is your answer? I get a one answer. Okay, I wanted to get more. Ed, you wanted to rethink your answer? Okay, let me post here. I wanted to get answers from everyone. If you do not understand it, let me know. I get two answers. Now I wanted two more. And I need one more. Okay, so do you want to take a guess, Kate? All right. I get four answers, and the four answers are different. That's cool. So let me explain it. Okay. The right answer is A. Okay. The right answer is A. Why it is not a B? Because, okay, you are calling a method of the parent. So you are really not supplying yourself, your own instance to it. Okay. So that's why just like you call other methods, usually you do not supply a value called self. Self is only used in the class method definition. It refers to the current instance. So that is why B is not the right answer. Okay. C, why it is not. You say, let me just come here. Can I just say parent dot, and then like a parent method? Can I just do that? Let me remove all the code here. You cannot, right? This is a class name. You really wanted to create an instance of it. So that is why you do not directly using B. And of course, then you understand why B is not. So let me say, just say here. So you say, oh, let me just provide and self. So, okay, let me run it. What do you mean self? Yeah, what do you mean? Self is only used within the class when you use it to refer to the current instance. And you cannot directly use the class. You have to create an instance of a class, then you can use it. So that is why A is the right answer. Okay, so let's move on. Any question on it? Any question on it? If not, then I will move on. Okay, class in Python can have multiple parent class. So like this one. Okay, you use the parent. And if you wanted to use another one, let's just make it up. Okay, let's say I will have a human. All right, then you can put in human there as well. Then this child has two parents, it will inherit all those two parents has. You will be able to inherit all those from those two parents. Okay, all right. So a class in Python can have multiple parents. All methods and the properties of all parents will be inherited. If the parents have property or method of the same name, okay, let's say human has a method called talk, parent has a method called talk, then the system will get confused. When you use a talk, which specific one you are trying to use? Okay, there's a rule here. So let me get a Kate. Can you help me read this paragraph?
Okay. If the parents have properly or method of the same name and the child does not define its own, then the one from the parent which appear before the others will take the order.
Okay, thank you. That means, okay, if the child also have such a method with the same name, then it's always using the one that the child defines. If the child does not override, then that means you have two parents, you have two methods with the same name, one's from parent one, one's from parent two. Then let me show my code here. In this case, the method in the parent will have the priority. That name in the human, that method in the human parent will be shadowed. It will not be used. So the one defined in parent will be used. So that's the order. Okay, that is the order. So hopefully that makes sense to you. So whichever is in the position before the other one, it has a priority, right? Right? You see here. So I have two parents for the dog. So non-marine mammals, non-winged mammals. So both are the parents of a dog. Okay? So then when you use super init, if a non-marine mammal has a method called init, non-winged mammal has a method called init, then I call super init. Which one should I use? Of course, this one. Okay, because this comes first. So that you the super refer to this one. Okay, move on. All right, so let me just skip those. This is too advanced to you guys, and for high school students at least. Okay. All right, so let me just skip those, and let me go to the next one then. All right, variable scope. So all variables in the program may not be accessible at all locations in that program. This depends on where you have declared a variable. Okay, so there are two basic scope of variables in Python: global variable, local variable. I will have an example for you. Okay, so variables that are defined inside a function body have a local scope. And those defined outside have a global scope. What does it mean? I will show you, okay? So this means that local variable can be accessed only inside the function in which they are declared. That makes sense, okay? Whereas global variables can be accessed throughout the program body by all functions because it's global. So when you call a function, the variable declared inside it are brought into scope. So let me give you the code here. Try this code and see total, local total, and its output. So let me give you this code. Let give you this code first. So then let's come to analyzing the code. Okay, so use that code. Let me also replace the code here. You see, in this application, I have a variable. It is not defined in the function. So this variable is called a global variable. Okay, in this function, it is called a sum, right? The function sum. It has a local total. Okay, because local total. All right, and then I will return the local total. So now I have these two lines of code. I call the function sum. And then I print out outside the function global total. I print out what it is. This is global total. Okay. So then this is print out the local total. So let me show you what does this mean. So let me run it. Okay, you say inside the function global total. Okay, this one is 0. It doesn't surprise me because total is 0 here. So inside the function local total 30. Argue 1, argue 2, 10 plus 20 plus 0. That is 30. That's correct, right? So outside the function global total still 0. It doesn't change. All right. Okay. Let me do this. Look at my screen. If I remove this one, okay, remove the comment, you see, immediately I get a problem here. So let me just comment out this line first. Then I will come back to talk about this one. Okay, so let me comment out the code here. Let me save the code. Let me run it. You see now inside the function local total, it becomes 60. But the outside the function, the global total is still 0. You see, I have the total here, but why it is still 0? It's a very tricky, right? So let's understand it. All right, this is a variable declared outside of the function. And in Python, when we have a variable name and then I give it a value, usually that means you define the variable. So within the function, we define total again. So this total is only in the scope of local. That means this function, okay? It is not this variable. total. So that is why when you use argue1 plus argue2, total has 30. Then you argue1 plus argue2, this is 30 again, and then plus 30 again. That's why the local total now becomes 60. But total outside of function does not change. All right. So let me do this again. Let me add a line called global total. Okay. So now let's see what happens. Just add this line to the code. You guys do the same. So let me run it. Now this is still equal to 60, no change. But now you see the global total becomes 30. What does it mean? It doesn't make sense to me. Well, okay, this line of code makes difference. Once you have a code like that in the function, it tells the system, this total now actually refers to this variable, this global variable. Okay? So that's why now total means the global variable, you give it a value that's 30. So that is why here it prints out it's 30. All right, so let me post here. Are you get confused? Or you still follow along? So can you give me your feedback? You can type your feedback. Okay. So Adrian, you get confused. Let me just replay it then. So first tell me which part you get lost. Adrian. But the global part, that's a good one. Okay. Global total, when you use it in a function, you really told the system or the function, this variable is not a local variable. It is a global variable. And the global variable, that means this one. So let me show you, okay, if I remove this one, if I remove it, okay, so let's see what happens. So it defines a global variable total, okay? So if you have it, so it tells the system this total, this variable, and that variable, all the same one, and this one actually now is not a local variable. It is not local. It is this variable, and it is this one. They are the same one. They are the global variable total. Okay. And then another part is it's easy to get confused is this. Okay. So let me comment out of this one. And then let me comment out of that one. And now let me uncomment this one. So I do not define a variable called total here. Why it works here? So let me run it again. You see, global total is 0. Why it works here? The reason is that because in your function, you never define a variable total. So the system will automatically search in the global scope to see if there's a variable called total. If it has, then it will use it. But if you uncomment out of this line, then you define a variable called total, then the system get confused. What is this one? What is this one? And this one you see actually is after that then. So let me just make this and like this. Then you will see it will not be confused, right? It will not be confused because this total now refers to this variable. This variable has a value. But if I comment out this line, then it will look for the scope, the global scope to see if a variable called total. If not, then you have a problem. So let me comment out this line. And you see you have a problem, right? So using global in the function, it will specifically tell the system this variable is a global variable here, that one. So whatever you do to it, it will impact that global variable. So hopefully it helps you. So does it make sense to you now, Adrian? Okay. Hopefully you feel better about that. If you still have question, we can discuss more. So let me ask Kate, does this make sense to you now? Or you are lost? Kate. All right, how about you, Eddie?
Yeah, no, I understand it.
Very good. So let's move on now. All right. So let me do this. The variable scope, you see here a equal to 0. And in your function, okay, you print out a because you did not define the variable a. It will have the global variables value. And okay, so here print out a, you also have global variable value. But then now I have a global variable called a, and then in the function I have a. So here you print out a 4, but this you still print out a 0 because the global variable is not changed. Now you see you have the global variable, you use the global a equal to 4, and you print out a, you have 4, and now you print out a here, you also have value 4 because you change the value in this function. You change the value in the function. So you set a equal to 4 here. I hope that help you. So now let's do this quiz. So what does the following code print? So let's let me get your answer on this. What does it print? All right. I get one answer. It said we will print out 99. So let me give you the code and I want you guys to run it now. See what is printed out. Okay, can you guys run it? Get that code, run it, see what is printed out. Yes, and why? Because you never define a variable called a PP. You never define a variable. So now you wanted to print it out. So that's why you have a name error. PP is only defined within this function. And here the code is outside of the function. So that is why. All right, so let's move on to the next. What does the following code print? What does it print? Very good, Ed. You have the right answer, but let me waiting for other students to answer it. So what will this be printed out? Jerry, you are wonderful. You are also giving me the right answer. Very good. Okay, so can I get the answer from two other students? All right, so the right answer is, oh, Kate, you are good. That's the right answer, Kate. So let me get Jerry to explain your answer, and you have the right answer. Can you just speak up and explain why you get that answer? Jerry, you want to speak up and why you get that answer? Okay, Jerry, okay, then Eddie, can you explain why?
So it'll print out 100 because while I equal 50 might be the global value, inside the fan method, it's I is now a local variable. Well, it's a local variable defined within the function. So whenever it returns I, it'll return 100 as that's what it's defined in the variable in the function in the method. So then when you print out, you'll get 100.
Wonderful, exactly. Because this return II is defined here. It has a value 100. So that means this function will return 100. You print out the result. That's 100. Very good. Thank you, Eddie, for that. So the next one, I think this is the last one. Okay. What will be printed out? Nobody knows. Okay, so then let me tell you. So it will be printed out at 2. The reason is that if false, when we do a condition, okay, Jerry, you're good. Okay, so when you do decision, if false, you just skip it, and then whatever happened here, it's a local one. Okay, it's a local one. So here is the global one. Global one still does not change, so it's 2. So that's why the result is 2. All right, that's all I have for today, and I want you guys, to remember what is the class inheritance, the parent and the child, and what is the override method. And then you need to remember what is the variable scope. And I also remember when the child has multiple parents, and the parents have some method or properties that have the same name, then the one who is in the position before the others, that one will take the priority. So once you all remember that, so let me return the class back to Ms. He.